The trouble with writing is that things don't always go the way you planned. And that's kind of what happened with the trouble with Nancy. Find out more in a minute. Okay, so The Trouble with Nancy, new release for July of 2019. I'm so excited about this book, and I wasn't originally. So, this is why. Back in 2017, I taught a class for NaNoWriMo. And the point of the class was to kind of teach students how to come up with an idea quickly and execute it quickly. And we did it with NaNoWriMo because it's actually really common with NaNoWriMo for people to, they find out about it near the beginning, like it's going to start in 3 days and I got to come up with an idea for this book that I got to write in this month, because you write 50,000 words in 30 days. So you've got to come up with your concept and get it ready and go. And sometimes that's really fast. Well, that's how writing life is. Sometimes you get something from an editor that says, hey, we need this by this date, can you do it? Or sometimes you are invited into a collection. It's like, you know what? We have something coming out in 4 months. Is there anything a way you can get me something in 2.5? And we're like, right? Well, sometimes you want to be in that collection, or you have that project that, got put off for too long, and oh yeah, you put it on pre-order, so you kind of have to get it done. I'm just saying, it's great way to keep your deadlines, let me tell you. So I thought it would be a good example. And so to make it so that they could see what I'm talking about, I gave the class almost carte blanche. It was primarily Christian fiction authors, so I knew that they weren't going to give me, erotica set in Regency times, because that wouldn't happen. And so I just said, tell me what you think. Well, they finally came back with Pony Express Girl Rider, a Chuck Wagon Dude, and something about gold and searching for gold, and I can't even remember exactly what the criterion for that one was, but it had to do with gold. And there were a few problems with this idea. This was kind of 10 years after the gold rush. Okay, that the Pony Express was 1860. Yeah, 1960. Let's go with that. 1860. And Pony Express Girl, yeah, because that's never been done. And I was like, really? And then the whole Chuck Wagon Dude, yeah, that's a wagon train. There were no Chuck Wagon Dudes for the Pony Express, so that I couldn't do straight up, no matter what. It just wasn't physically possible. They would have had to have run into a wagon train, and she found him that way, and she wouldn't have time to just sit and talk. Okay, you're riding those horses. And I knew that to do a story, I was going to have to mess with history, and I didn't like that idea. And so I really worked with it, and I really tried to figure it out, and I finally came up with a solution. And so I did it. I wrote Pony Express Girl, sort of Chuck Wagon Dude, and the gold. Actually, I put the gold in a couple of different ways, in a funky little twisty thing, and it was a lot of fun. But it all started with the girl Pony Express rider. Look, it's been done, and I'm actually a little sick of the historical fiction where modern sensibilities and tropes are imposed into the historical, because look, historical women did some amazingly strong and powerful things. They were not wimpy little things fainting on couches all the time. Okay, that's a messed up trope in itself. But they were perfect, and it may have been because of how they were trained. It doesn't matter. They were perfectly content at being women, and they didn't always do everything they could to prove that they're just as good as men. They didn't have to. They knew it. They weren't, in that sense. In my opinion, they weren't nearly as insecure as we tend to be. But so what I wanted to do is like, okay, this has been done. We've read about the girl Pony Express rider before, and actually, there's no total proof that there was any. There's one account that I found, because I did hundreds of hours of research on this thing. There's one account that I found that there is there was probably one that, not just that happened, I am sure it's possible that there was more than one that happened, but there was one for sure probably that happened. There's no proof of it. And it's implied by the research that I found, and I can't even find it again. I got to go look through my links again. But it was implied that they knew, that the guys knew, you know, they addressed it like it was just, this is who it is and no big deal. That was kind of cool. But for the most part, this isn't what most young ladies of that age would have been looking for. They would have been looking for, frankly, a suitor and a husband and parties and balls. Okay, it's just the era. 1860 America, this is what they were hoping for. And I decided, fine. So I twisted it on its head. And yeah, she's a girl pony express rider, and she hates it. She can't ride, and she has to ride astride. She can't ride side saddle pretending to be a boy. Okay, so she has to ride astride, and she's no good at it. I don't know if you've ever ridden a horse, but particularly if you've just ridden one once and then you get off the horse just for, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, jostling around on a horse, and you get off, you can get some serious jelly legs. But riding super fast with you've got to do, you're talking some serious jelly legs. So I have her falling off the horse. I have everything going wrong that can go wrong because fiction. It was so much fun to do it. I had to bring in the chuck wagon dude, and so to fit with the rest of the story, we have a chuck wagon dude, but he's not. He's a cook at the different stations helping them, feed these kids and whatnot, because the Pony Express riders were kids. They were about, the way to describe it best is they were about the size of modern jockeys. So they were short, scrawny little guys. The posters asked for small, wiry boys. They didn't want them over 18, and I'm sure that they were, but they didn't want them over 18. Willing to risk death daily, and orphans preferred. Which, that line always cracks me up. And I've seen some articles that claim that poster isn't authentic, but I've seen way too many advertisements from way back then that showed the same lines. So I'm sorry, but I'm thinking it was pretty accurate. I could just be wrong. So for the most part, I didn't play loose and fast with history in it because I have Nancy. She's doing things a little unorthodox, and it's obvious that she is. It's not just me taking liberties with history that everybody would have done. No, it's just this girl doing this one thing that she's not actually doing what she thinks she's doing. So that's about all I'm giving you. And then, so you've got the chuck wagon dude, and I kind of fell in love with him because he's so much fun. He's such a sweetheart. I want to make him a son. It's like, I've got daughters, because he's so much fun. His attitude and the way that he encourages her and things. And then she takes a very understated, a very Nancy-like, understated spiritual journey in this book that is it's not real heavy, but it's there and it's solid, and it actually was really good for me when I was writing. I was learning a lot of really cool things. I was like, this is kind of neat, and so that was really interesting. But and then the gold thing, it's part of that alternate, she's not really doing what she thinks she's doing thing, and again, that's all you're getting, but the gold is in there. So I got all the elements in. I wrote my 50,000 words in November of 2017, and then I set it aside because I have a list. Okay, see, I talk with my hands. I have a list, and it's like this long times 10 or something. And I didn't have time to finish it and publish it and do all the things with it. So it got set aside. And then a year later, in approximately November of 2018, author Carol McAdoo invited me to be a part of three different collections. And I can't remember the first one, but the second one was Gold Diggers, and the third one was Books and Blessings, Thanksgiving Books and Blessings. And so I thought, well, okay. Oh, Prairie Roses, that was the first one. So you might want to check those out. But anyway, I didn't have time for them, and I was going to say no to all of it because I literally, you know my lists. Well, then I had this thought. I had been wanting to do the second Ballads from the Hearth. That's the one that Jack is in, where I write the, what are they called? The ballads my dad used to sing when I was a kid. I've been wanting to write that for so long, and I haven't had time. And I realized that that story would fit under the parameters of this Gold Digger series. And so I was like, I don't know. And I thought, no, this is an excuse to do it because I've been wanting to. And I write a lot of stuff that I have to because it's like such a chore, right? But I don't always let myself just have fun with the extra projects. And so I was like, no. And so I told her, okay, I'll do the Gold Diggers. And it was really fun because I got to be the cover designer for each of those 3 sets. And so I got to really see what the other ones were coming out. And it was a lot of fun to kind of be on the inside, you know. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do Mary. And that was my plan all the way up to January of 2019. So, you know, a whole 2 months. Because me. So what I did is I went ahead and sat down with all my stuff, and I was like, okay, the research. I gotta figure out the research. And I realized, oh my goodness, there's no time. Okay, so I do a boatload of research when I do anything historical. I do a lot of research for almost all the books, but historical in particular, it's really easy to get bad history information. You know, things like the medieval people didn't take baths. Hogwash, they took baths. Okay, there are wood carvings of them taking baths. There are paintings of them they were bathing people. So it was just like, yeah, no, they bathed. And so I was like, oh my goodness, this is Victorian America. I gotta research things like breach of promise laws. That's a hint for what's coming. I have to, mourning laws, another hint that's coming. And so I was like, oh, I don't have time to do that. And so I was going to back out of the collection when I remembered Nancy and the fact that Nancy does have a gold issue in it. I mean, it's already there. I didn't have to put it in and make it something that I was going to have to barely tweak Mary. Not much, but it was a tiny, basically it was going to emphasize a minor point and make it a little bit more major was really what I was doing. And so I was like, okay, scrap Mary, I'm doing Nancy, and then that just gets that off the docket. I get to say, done. That's kind of cool. So I went with that. And the book ended up being 70,000 words-ish. I don't know, it's about 300 pages ish. So, I mean, it didn't end up being that long, but it's not super short either. So I added about 20,000 words, I'm going to say. I know I cut some words, so I definitely added at least 20,000 words. And so that's all I had to do, but I did have to rewrite because in Nano, you're writing fast, and sometimes you're writing, and then this will happen, this will happen, this will happen, and this will happen because you haven't done the research on that, and you need to keep writing. And so then when I got to those places, I actually had to write all the this wills and, oh, I can't write that. That didn't happen that way. And then I had to go back at the end and add her faith journey into logical places. I didn't want to write that in when it happened in the story because it's really easy to make it too emphasized here and not enough there. And if I have it really emphasized over here and then later I try to do that, then it just becomes preachy and I didn't want that. And so I added, like a lot of times I do it with mysteries. I add the mysterious, the red herrings and all those clues. I add them after I've written it. Well, I kind of did that with Nancy's Faith because I'm really telling 2 stories at once in this book. There is Nancy's ride, you know, and then what's going on at home. Because there's a dual story going on there. It's all the family. It's Nancy and then on the horses, and then there's, you know, her brother Lewis and her mother. But they're 2 different places, so it's kind of a dual story. Well, got it all done, got it all set up, and I discovered that I really like this book. I like it so much that I don't know. I'm considering doing a second book. So this is The Trouble with Nancy, and that's kind of something that people say about her all the time. You know, it's what the trouble with Nancy is she doesn't think before she acts, or the trouble with Nancy is she's oversensitive, or whatever it is. And so I thought, you know, I could tell, because there's this tiny little story that we know, we get a conclusion for, but we know there's more to the story. Well, I could tell that story with her brother Lewis, because I mean, her brother Lewis didn't get the adventure he was supposed to get. And so I could do that. And so I'm thinking about it, but I'm not sure. And it's like, oh, I can't decide. And if I do it, it will be, well, that's just like Lewis. There'll be no, well, it'll be, that's just like Lewis. But I'm not sure. I'm still kind of, if you let me know, leave a comment, let me know. What do you think? Should I do it? Should I not? I don't know. But Nancy turned out to be a really, I fell in love with the girl. I mean, she annoyed the pants off me at the beginning, and she was supposed to. So, I mean, I guess I did that okay, because I wrote a really annoying character, because she's supposed to be, she's self-centered, she's been spoiled, she's this little prissy miss, and then boom, she's put into a situation where she has to rise above and be the person that she could be all along and didn't. And I actually showed that her rising above isn't unreasonable in specific ways that I'm not telling you about. But so anyway, so we ended up with The Trouble with Nancy. And I'm going to put a slide in here somewhere and show what the original cover looked like. But once it became a part of the Gold Digger series, the cover had to change. So this little silhouette is pretty much the only thing that survived from the original cover idea, which is too sad, but it's okay. I really like the story. The back of the copy, and I don't have my glasses on, so I'm going to do the trombone thing and see if I can read it. Her reputation precedes her, whether the bad guys realize it or not. She can't ride, she hates horses, and she's terrified of being alone. What's a girl to do? Join the Pony Express, of course. When Nancy Harrison's family receives a tax bill they can't pay, there's only one option open to them. Her brother Lewis will have to join the Pony Express and earn the money that way. It would have worked too, if ruffians hadn't attacked him and broken his leg. She doesn't want to do it, of course, but what choice is there? Lose everything or ride a stupid smelling horse for a few weeks. But things go from bad to worse each day on the trail. Can't you just go back home to balls and teas in the hope of a suitor before her 20th birthday? Sans her hair, of course, because that'll entice the fellows. Sigh. Anyway, so this is Nancy. Here's the back. I'm here in the bookstore, so it's got the little bookstore sticker, but I'm really excited about the back. I'm going to push this up just a little closer to kind of show. I think it's kind of cute. And then I'm going to push the cover front up just a little bit, because why not? We live once. See, it's kind of cool. Anywho, The Trouble with Nancy. It is the first of mine in the Gold Diggers series. The other 3 or 4 books, I can't remember. I think it's the other 3 books in this series they're not connected. Each book stands alone. They're by different authors. They involve different places, different characters. There's nothing about it. You have Carol McAdoo, and hers is Jules Gold. You have Amy Lilliard, and I think hers is No Greater Treasure. There's Nancy, and there's Jennifer Beckstrand with Jesse and James. And by the way, that one sounds just so delightfully adorable. I can't stand it. I get to read that this week, and I'm really excited. So there's The Trouble with Nancy, and the trouble with this book is that I didn't want to write it, and I was wrong. I'm wrong about a lot of stuff. I'm just saying. Anywho, stay tuned. I should be doing more of these soon. I've got one coming for Bentley, and you just really have a great week, okay?